Here is something that will genuinely mess with your head. You spend $1,500 on a brand new OLED TV. The picture is absolutely stunning. Deep blacks, brilliant colors, every detail razor sharp on a panel that looks like it came from the future. Then you sit down to actually watch something, and the sound that comes out is just disappointing. Thin, flat, and hollow in a way that completely undercuts that gorgeous screen. Meanwhile, your friend picks up a $120 soundbar, plugs it into a perfectly ordinary mid-range TV, and somehow the audio in their living room sounds fuller, warmer, and more satisfying than yours. How is that even possible? That is exactly what we are getting into today. Cheap soundbars versus expensive built-in TV speakers, and the winner is genuinely not what most people expect when they walk into this comparison. Before we jump in, drop a comment below telling me what TV and audio setup you are currently running and whether you are actually happy with how it sounds day to day. I read every comment. And if comparison content like this helps you make better buying decisions, hit subscribe and leave a like. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who need it. Why expensive TVs often sound disappointing. Let us start with the real reason this comparison even exists. Because once you understand what is happening inside a modern television, everything else in this video clicks into place immediately. Modern televisions are an engineering contradiction that most people never stop to think about. Manufacturers are competing furiously to make screens as thin, as light, and as visually stunning as physically possible. Every millimeter of panel thickness matters for design. Every gram of weight matters for wall mounting and aesthetics. And that obsession with slim, sleek design comes at a very direct cost. There is simply no physical room left for speakers that can actually perform well. You cannot fit a meaningful woofer, a proper tweeter array, or a deep enough acoustic cabinet into a panel that is barely thicker than your finger. The physics do not allow it, and no amount of engineering talent changes that fundamental reality. The result is that even a $2,000 or $3,000 television is often stuffed with tiny drivers firing downward or backward into a chassis that barely has room to breathe. Bass is the first casualty, then overall spaciousness disappears. Then at higher volumes, dialogue clarity starts to suffer and the sound begins to feel strained and congested. You are essentially getting world-class picture quality paired with speakers that were squeezed into whatever space was left over after the display engineering was finished. Not because the manufacturer does not care about audio, but because the ultra-slim form factor simply does not leave them many good options. Soundbars exist specifically to solve exactly this problem. Even a budget soundbar is engineered from the ground up with one single purpose: making audio better. Bigger drivers, a properly designed acoustic enclosure, and in many cases, a separate dedicated subwoofer for real low-end punch. That focused, purpose-built design is why a $120 soundbar can routinely embarrass the built-in speakers on a television that costs 20 times more in a direct listening test. It is not magic. It is just physics working in the soundbar's favor for once. The case for the cheap soundbar. So what does a budget soundbar actually do better in real-world use, and which specific models are worth knowing about? Start with dialogue clarity, because that is consistently the #1 complaint people have about TV speakers. Thin built-in TV drivers struggle to anchor voices cleanly and naturally to the screen, especially when music or ambient sound is layered underneath the dialogue at the same time. Even a basic entry-level bar like the Sony HT-S100F, which is about as stripped down as soundbars get, still does a noticeably better job of keeping speech forward, clear, and easy to follow compared to most TV built-in systems. It is a single bar with no subwoofer, no Atmos support, nothing complicated whatsoever. And it still wins the dialogue clarity comparison comfortably against built-in TV audio in almost every real-world setup. Step up to the Polk Audio Signa S4 and the performance gap becomes even more obvious and harder to argue with. The Signa S4 supports Dolby Atmos, delivers cleaner center channel vocal performance, and adds real low-end weight through its included wireless subwoofer. All things that TV speakers simply cannot replicate inside a slim modern panel. Dialogue feels anchored and present. Bass has genuine weight you can feel rather than just hear. And the overall soundstage opens up in a way that genuinely transforms the viewing experience from the very first use. And then there is the Hisense X5140Q, which RTINGS named their best budget soundbar pick for 2026. This is a full 5.1.4 channel system. Wireless subwoofer included, rear satellite speakers included, Atmos height processing included, all at budget level pricing. The fact that you can get a genuine 5.1.4 Atmos home theater at this price point makes the comparison with expensive TV speakers feel almost unfair before it even properly gets started. The case for expensive TV speakers. Now here's where things get genuinely interesting, because this comparison is not completely one-sided, and there is a real surprising twist worth taking seriously. While the vast majority of televisions, even very expensive premium ones, lose this audio comparison to even a modest soundbar, a small number of high-end TVs have invested so heavily in their built-in speaker engineering that they can legitimately challenge what a basic entry-level soundbar delivers. That is where the unexpected winner angle stops being a clickbait hook and becomes a genuine point worth making. The Panasonic Z95 BOLED is the most powerful example of this. It has a built-in 5.1.2 speaker system with a dedicated subwoofer and height channels integrated directly into the television's own body. RTINGS has called it one of the best-sounding TVs on the market, which is an extraordinary thing to say about any built-in audio system. Panasonic genuinely invested in serious speaker engineering on this model in a way that most TV manufacturers simply do not prioritize. If you already own a Z95B or are considering buying one, the honest answer is that adding a budget soundbar is far less urgent than it would be with virtually any other television available today. The Samsung S95 FOLED also makes a strong case. It packs a 70-watt 4.2.2 speaker configuration into its slim body, giving it noticeably more power and spatial coverage than a typical built-in television setup. It will not beat a proper dedicated soundbar system in a rigorous test, but it is significantly more capable than most buyers expect. For someone who genuinely values a clean, minimal, cable-free living room above all else, it is a legitimately compelling all-in-one solution that deserves real respect. Sony's Bravia 5 deserves a mention here too. It uses 3D surround upscaling alongside a feature called Voice Zoom 3, both specifically designed to lift dialogue clarity and create a wider soundstage from built-in drivers. Bass is not its strongest suit, but voice intelligibility is genuinely impressive for a built-in system. And that matters enormously for the kind of everyday television watching most people actually do throughout the day. Music and everyday listening. Does it change the verdict? One more angle worth addressing quickly is music and casual background listening. Because a lot of people use their TV setup for streaming music, YouTube, and ambient sound throughout the day, not just dedicated movie nights. Here, the cheap soundbar wins even more convincingly. TV speakers at low to moderate volumes for background music sound noticeably thinner and less engaging than even the most basic soundbar setup. The Sony HT-S100F playing music quietly in the background fills a room in a way that no slim TV chassis can match. And if you have the Hisense AX5140Q running with its subwoofer for casual background listening, the difference between that and TV speakers is so obvious that there is almost no comparison to have. The real-world verdict. For the overwhelming majority of television setups, a cheap soundbar wins this comparison clearly, convincingly, and without much serious debate. A $120 to $200 soundbar from Sony, Polk Audio, or Hisense is going to deliver fuller bass, cleaner dialogue, and a more satisfying overall listening experience than the built-in speakers on almost any television, including televisions that cost many times more. That is not a criticism of TV manufacturers. It is simply the unavoidable reality of what the physics of slim panel design allows for audio. The unexpected winner, and this is genuinely the part that surprises most people, is that a small handful of premium televisions have pushed their built-in audio engineering far enough to make you genuinely question whether a soundbar is even necessary. The Panasonic Z95B is the clearest example. It is one of the very rare TVs where the built-in audio can actually be the final answer for the right buyer in the right setup. For everyone else, the cheap soundbar wins. And honestly, it is not particularly close. That is the full breakdown. Cheap soundbars versus expensive TV speakers, and why the answer is almost never what people assume going in. Drop a comment below telling me whether your TV built-in audio has ever genuinely surprised you, or if adding a soundbar was the moment your home audio finally clicked into place. Hit like if this video gave you real clarity. Subscribe so you do not miss the next comparing.